Hello everyone, my name is Sarah of Smart Reiki and Tarot. Thank you for coming to my channel and listening to my musings. Of course, these are only my opinions, and this week is going to be something very different than what I've done previously because I've had a really hard time. I was going to come on here and talk about the show Severance and my theories, but we've been watching a group of shows that are very, very similar to each other, and they all relate and correlate. So this is my emotional response to those shows. And so let's get into it, okay? I'm gonna tell you what they are. We've been watching Severance, Fringe, and the Warrior Nun. Now, none of these shows are feel-good shows. However, only one show gave me nightmares and an attachment. Only one show doesn't sit well with me, and it's supposed to be satire. But the only thing I see it making a satire of is the self-help community. That show is Severance. All three of these action sci-fi shows have to do with microchips and fighting to save the world as we know it. They all could be seen as priming us to be ready to have microchips inserted into our brains. But in Fringe and Warrior Nun, there is an active group fighting against this. Now I have issues with Netflix and how overly gory their TV shows are. I feel that Netflix is pushing to desensitize our humanity against violence. The level of gore in Warrior Nun is video game level. However, the pacing of the show is fast. The story is well written and keeps you engaged. I wouldn't recommend the show to any practicing Catholics, as I think they'd be offended by some of the storyline. I love that there is a sect of demon fighting nuns that literally kick demons' asses rather than just pray the demons away. But again, violence. This show is based on a comic book, so violence is to be expected. I feel that Netflix is a psyop pushing violence. Our brains can't tell the difference between what we call the reality of our real world and what that of the reality of TV is fake. To our minds, what we see on TV is actually as traumatic as experiencing it in real life. We just use gymnastics to rationalize the violence by saying it's just fake and not real. But on a subconscious level, it is traumatizing us. We as a society have not moved past watching beasts eat people in coliseums or watching people be hung. We are literally trauma-based creatures addicted to being traumatized. This is why I am against the death penalty, because as humans with humanity, we should be showing compassion and our humanity to those people with damaged minds and souls. Watching Netflix shows feels like I'm in Orwell's 1984 with my eyes being pried open, being forced to watch violence. It splinters the soul, fractures the mind, so the person can be easily controlled. It's also the real life experiments in the MK Ultra program. But of course, that program used psychoactive drugs. When I watch Netflix shows, I keep all of this in mind. I know what is being done to society. However, with Apple TV, I haven't figured out their agenda. But I can tell you with the level of hypnosis and NLP used, I know there is an agenda. All TV shows can be said to be using priming to influence humanity. For example, whenever I watch Fringe, Walter is always eating Twizzlers and it makes me want a Twizzler, even though he's always eating in his lab around yucky stuff. Tell me, how can I eat while watching that show? I have no idea. I'm a huge germaphobe and always wash my hands or use sanitizer before eating. I also wash my hands before I use the restroom as well as after. Now, supposedly Walter is a germaphobe. There was an episode dedicated to that, yet he touches dead bodies and such with no gloves and then eats. No, get out of here with that. Either he's afraid of germs or he isn't. So what is that about? I don't know. If anyone has any theories, please let me know. All right, let's get back to my point. The point is seeing something repeatedly has an influence on our subconscious, and then we want it or act it out. This is how ads work. Now, we can use priming productively to empower ourselves. That is partly how manifestation works. You have to visualize what you want. You can prime yourself for your day. When you wake up, you set the tone. Tell yourself you will have a great day. Visualize yourself enjoying your morning routine, getting to work on time or early, hitting all your points in your presentation, having a smooth day, etc. Then see how your day goes. Priming is used by advertising and product placement on TV to get you to consume their product. It influences you on a subconscious level. Fringe seem to love Twizzlers as their product placement. I wonder how much Twizzlers paid for that placement. Or was it done simply to create that childlike nature of Walter that the actor who helped create him claims? Anyway, moving on to Severance. According to the creator and writer of the show, Dan Erickson, he wrote the show while working temp jobs that he hated. He had the thought while writing, which is his passion, that he wished he could just skip to the end of the day and forget how tedious and bored he was temping. There isn't much information about the writer as this is his first major project, but I don't know if he's aware of how his show is being used. The amount of hypnosis, NLP, and priming is over the top. The flashing lights, the way Mark S.'s wife talks to the innies, all the white, ugh. The show doesn't sit well with me, and the pacing is off. Come on, Ben, get with it. Pick up the pace. Ben Stiller is the director, so yeah, that's why I said that. I know that the huge cliffhanger at the end is another mind trick. Pockets of the Future, aka Paul Romano, was a trained psychologist, and he talks about the psychological trauma major cliffhangers create. I can't find the video anymore. I know YouTube made him take a lot of his videos down as he exposed too much, especially about the show Full House. The first 6 episodes were so boring and caused me major anxiety. Nikolai always fell asleep, and we never made it through a whole episode in one sitting, not until episode 7. Then we watched episode 7 through 9 in one sitting. If the show had been paced like that all the way through, I probably maybe would have agreed with everyone that the show is brilliant, but I don't know if I could say that. It's brilliant, but not in the way that I support. However, the show not only gave me anxiety and made me feel ugh, but after watching episode 9, I had a dream where a seer came to me and told me I had a shadow person attached to me. Now, I'm not saying it's from the show, but it was curious timing. The creator definitely created hell and knew what he was doing. Well, that's my opinion. Other people claim that it's based on a different name. I forgot what they said, but that it meant lumination. I don't think so. I think it's based on Hel, the Norse goddess of the underworld. So he named one of the characters Heli. To me, this is my opinion, after the Norse goddess Hel, who is the ruler of the underworld and who can never leave, as she may destroy our world. In the show, Heli S, because she's been severed, can never leave the basement of Lumen. We find out that Heli is the granddaughter of the man who created Lumen. This show is literally about hell, bringing hell to earth, mind control, and the evil of powerful corporations. I honestly don't want to give my attention to that. What you focus on, where attention goes, energy flows, and that is what you manifest. Consciously as a society, we know to say no to microchips. But in Europe, some elites already have chips. And even here, some companies, aka corporations, have inserted chips into their employees' hands to be used as a badge to get into buildings, clock in, get food from the vending machines. The employees say how much they like it, as they don't have to remember to bring their badge or money to work. However, that chip can trace you, track you, monitor you, what happened, and happens to privacy or personal autonomy. Fringe has the observers, which to me mirror the Greys from the New Age movement, i.e. us in the future. So the New Age movement believes in gray aliens, and they believe that the gray aliens are responsible for the abductions of people, and that they're after genetic material to try to get back to being more human-like. So these Greys, or the observers, are totally devoid of our humanity, and by that I mean no emotions, logic and science above all else, no regard for life. Now, the observers in Fringe totally destroy the environment and create machines to reduce oxygen in the air because they can't handle the amount of oxygen in our atmosphere. And they literally want to kill humans off. But if you go with the Gray commentary, they are us. They're just from the future. And they can see timelines mathematically, and they can change events by seeing these timelines. But there's no women, it's all men. And somehow there's a child observer, yet that hasn't been explored yet in the show. I know when they first introduced this child observer, they weren't sure if he was an observer, but we're almost through season 5, so maybe they'll talk more about that. So there's no regard for life. Now, in the tarot, the swords are some of the worst cards you can get. It clearly shows that too much logic, too much thinking, and being in your head can hurt yourself as well as others. It's a very warlike card as a whole, card systems. And we become warlike. Almost most of the cards in the book either show a person being depressed or fighting, or, they're not good cards. Okay. So it's not good for humanity to get rid of our emotions, to be desensitized. Our humanity and our emotions, so let me restate that. Our emotions is what creates our humanity. And without that, we're not much more than robots or machinery or tech, right? So this is the danger of having companies insert us with tech, because how does it change us physiologically? How does it change us emotionally? How does it change our brain function? Now, in Fringe, when they insert the chip into the brain, well, actually they insert it into the back of the neck for the cerebral cortex, and the cerebral cortex takes over, and the frontal lobe is totally overridden. So that's why there's no emotion. They do not experience emotion, love, anything. So the show, I'm really, really happy Peter Bishop ends up he had inserted the chip into his brain, and he was becoming just like them, very robotic, very cold. He was losing his hair, but he still had his memories of his daughter and his love for the other main character. I don't remember her name. Because in this final season, it's more about Peter and his father Bishop, Walter Bishop, and trying to stop the observers. Now, I personally think the show Fringe should have stopped in season 4. Season 5 is a lot of just reworking what's already been done in season 3 and 4. And I just think it's unnecessary. But we'll see. We only have we're halfway through. So we'll see how that goes. Now, I'm going to pull a card from tarot and see what my tarot deck has to say about the show Severance, because my intuition, without even pulling a card, tells me, that the show is not healthy on a spiritual level, on a mental, emotional level, or for society as a whole. It's not healthy for the collective consciousness or unconsciousness. It's not something we should be consuming. And even though there was that major cliffhanger, I don't think we'll be watching season 2. I know Nikolai already said he's over it. He's not going to watch season 2 because of that cliffhanger. We both hate it when shows have huge cliffhangers. Wrap that shit up, Come on. Anyway, let's see. Okay. Talking about swords. We get 8 of Swords, interference. So I view this as the show is interfering with humanity. It's interfering with our timelines. It's interfering with our natural evolution and growth. It's interfering with our spiritual growth. Swords, like I said, are very warlike. And you have 8. It's almost like the culmination of the mental, thought and the process. And there's, as you can see in this, these swords are blocking these other swords, and with a red, that seems like, blood and violence. And so, yeah, this show really is interfering with our spiritual development, with our timeline, with our humanity. And I read what I had written down to Nikolai, and I had talked to him about my observations of Severance. But once he heard me read this, I'm actually kind of excited. He said he's done with Netflix. He doesn't want to continue watching. We were going to finish Fringe, but he doesn't want to finish watching the X-Files. We were trying to watch the whole series. I got a little bored of it after, 3 seasons. It got a little boring to me. Nothing's really ever said. There's some cool, like, conspiracy theory stuff in the X-Files, and some cool thoughts, things to think about, ways to think that are enjoyable for me, because I like questioning reality. I like questioning what we've been told. I don't necessarily take things at face value. I want to get to the spiritual meaning of things. I want to dive deep. I want to, be that mermaid who goes into the subconscious and pulls up. What is it doing there? I mean, that's why I wanted to study hypnosis and become a hypnotherapist, because I want to be in control of what I consume and how I consume it. And being aware is the first step in not letting it control you. The next step is realizing that, hey, I'm not going to watch this stuff. I do like watching these things from time to time, and I like hearing people's philosophies and theories of how these shows are affecting you on a spiritual level. But I'm excited because now Nikolai, wants to spend our evenings either playing games or coloring or, just hanging out. We may watch movies from time to time, which that's fine. There's a beginning, middle, and end for the most part, unless it's a trilogy. But usually even in trilogies or shows that continue, it's wrapped up for the most part, right? And I definitely want to watch that 90s show on Netflix because I'm super excited, and I would hope there would be no violence on that 90s show. I just noticed that in the action films and TV shows on Netflix, it's just over the top gore, and as I stated earlier, I find that very, very unsettling and just shocking. It's like, in what world did this level of gore be okay? Like, I expect that level of gore in horror movies, and that's why I don't watch horror movies. I can't handle it. I don't like the way it makes me feel watching those movies, and I do try to cover my eyes and, brace myself so I don't have to see it. But in Warrior Nun, there are some instances where it's so fast, you're like, oh my gosh. Anyway, so I'm rambling on. I hope you enjoyed this. Get outside, enjoy nature. Work on priming your day for the way you want it to go. Work on priming your day to empower yourself. And also be mindful of what you consume and how you consume it. And that doesn't go for just food. That's important as well, but it also has to do with what you watch on TV, what you read, what video games you play. If you care or believe in spirituality in any way, just be mindful. in my belief system, demons are very real. In my belief system, aliens are real. In my belief system, these things aren't necessarily just sci-fi. I also believe that if you can imagine it, you can make it reality. And I also believe that maybe possibly at least some of the demons that are around could be created by us, by humanity, from our collective unconsciousness. We create these entities in the etheric realm, and then they become very real. So I think it's about time that humans and humanity start using the collective consciousness or the collective unconsciousness to our advantage and dreaming a world of unity in terms of, respecting each other's differences, of respecting individual religions and belief systems, of celebrating our differences, but realizing that we're all human. We all want to love and be loved. We all want to have security. We all want to have a home. We all want to have food. We all want to, feel like we are contributing to this world. And I do like that Severance points out that, especially in our society, that our obsession with work and career is a little out of hand. The boss at Lumen literally has a shrine to Lumen, and she hasn't been severed. That is her conscious choice. And her whole life is Lumen. She worships Lumen. And anytime I hear people talking about a company, and I have one in mind, which I won't say, it's like, it's cult-like. And I think anyone in the know will know which company I'm thinking of. And I know what they have planned for the future. If you watch some Russell Brand videos, he talks about that. And it has to do with eugenics and this person's godlike complex to try to quote unquote save humanity, because this person believes that with the amount of plastics that are in the air, that the sperm count will be to 0 by 2045, so that eugenics and test tube babies, et cetera, will be the only way humanity can survive. And I say, no, that is not the only way humanity can survive. Why don't you hold companies accountable and stop using plastics and everything, and stop spraying our skies with ish, and take accountability for our actions as humanity, and stop blaming individual people for these issues when it's the big corporations. These big corporations really need to figure this ish out. And yes, as consumers, we can help by, not buying plastics. But it's hard because it's so ingrained in our society, right? We need an alternative, and we need to be shown the alternatives. But really that means going back to a simpler time of life and slow living. In Europe, I don't feel like they use as many plastics. They don't create as much trash as we do here in America. So it is in some ways about personal accountability and what we consume, but really to me, it's about the big corporations. So let's get our stuff together and change our future. I want to see a future built on respect and love for one another and caring and kindness, and no more violence, no more, shootings, and a spiritual based society where people are aware of being accountable for their own actions and being mindful of creating the life that they want to live. So those are just my musings for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.